Hello, people! Welcome to another edition of Friday Night Knives here on A Dose of Drew. This is a fixed blade Friday, and tonight we have the Civivi Civivi Midwatch. Wonderful little fixed blade with this karambit ring. The tail ring is nice. The ulti clip here, fantastic. And that is a little clip point with the ring. Very thin N690 blade steel. Absolutely fantastic little beaut there. This thing is not cheap in the sense that it's neither cheap in the sense of bad or cheap in the sense of inexpensive, but it's not expensive either. Quick little bit of dimensions here. 2.5 ounces all by itself with 2.9, so all together with the holster and such, though it is less important on there. So a little over 5 ounces with both. Only 2.5 ounces by itself, and this little puppy is slicey. It is a Civivi / whatever you want to call it, but it is very, very thin behind the edge. Has a little sharpening choil as well as a nice little bolster there to roll against. Great in the reverse grip as always. You do not have to do it in the ring for retention. If you want to get up in here, it has a great little grip. It really, really does. And the ability to do something like this is fantastic. Oh, do a little bit of standardized measurements here. We are just over 7.5 inches from tip to tail. About 7 5/8 right there. If you look at it again, we're at about 195 millimeters. Right, 7 5/8, 195 millimeters. Somewhere right in between there. Not bad. Not a bad size. That's really, really, really good. And just to give you an idea where this fixed blade is, here it is in a Spyderco sandwich. There's the Paramilitary 2. My gosh, what am I talking about here? And the Para 3. Much, much closer to the Para 3. And if you'll take a good close look about this, this bad boy is a full flat grind, and it is at least as tall as any of the Spydercos and much thinner on the blade stock. It has kitchen knife slicing quality. For those who don't know what I mean by that, it is extraordinarily good at moving through material. It has the proper geometry to be able to move the material just that little bit over that much distance, spreading the force and everything else out across there, meaning it glides through material well, and it is well apexed. Again, there it isn't, right in between the feldspars there. Doing its duty as a midwatch quite well. It is right in between a lot of sizes, and it's just a blur. And it is real close to the blur, which itself is a very mid-sized, well-done knife, and not just any leak, but a random leak. I did it. Not just any leak, but a random leak. All right, better intro for the leak here. You see, a little bit bigger. It makes the leak almost look tiny, even though it is barely any difference in size. As you can tell, it is still kind of right in between, doing a wonderful job again, being the midwatch. Right, it is a fantastic little size for my hand. You can have your hand. There's a little bit room for a little bit more pinky. There's all that stuff. And, oh yes, I forgot one. There's a Civivi Elementum, as you can see, it is slightly larger, and a Benchmade bug out. So, very similar in the bug out and size. And, of course, whatever, it's bigger than a midwatch. I'm not gonna, it's not mid-size, okay? Anyway. Really, As an EDC fixed blade, it being so slim means that it's very nice in the hand. It is definitely, absolutely a package piercer and a saran wrap slicer, a cardboard carver extraordinaire, and an envelope eviscerator. And in fact, pulling it into the reverse grip is one of the things where this really shines, where you're able to not only, yes, it does a great job in the karambit and the reverse grip with the knuckle ring. You can use it to jab, you can use it to protect that finger in the forward grip, as well as get slices and jabs. But for me, more importantly, when you're doing something like this, and for this I mean, you're gonna be opening up, right? Seeing, so if you're gonna be doing something and you don't want to come here, you want to cut away from yourself, so you flip it over here. And I often will turn my hand this way, right? And this actually, one of the things I like about some of the smaller knives like Yorkies and stuff, this actually does an astounding job in that, with that ring, where it's almost like a sway back, and where if you're pulling, or if you're doing something like if you're taking bunches of fruit or anything else off, this actually does really, really well. You often, I have to pull some, just wipe the blade off there for a moment. You often want, this is where hooks and stuff like that come in handy, and where things like the karambit actually came from is doing that with the blade. Being able to do harvesting and that sort of stuff with that hook blade style. Believe it or not, it makes a great weapon, but it is generally, like so many other great weapons, started out as an actual tool that you use. And this really excels in the tool part. Again, oh my gosh, the food prep style of this knife, where you can literally have your fingers up on it. You can, for close up, being able to actually have it on there and do like chopping motions through there. This thing's really, really good. Food prep, any solid task, it being a solid blade, even though it's thin stock, it's well heat treated, and it's got a lot of space to move through material. Very, very acute point, very well apexed material here. Just to give you a quick little, right, very well done. Makes curves, you can catch the bite. It's not the I don't want to sit here and say it's very good factory edge. This has not been stropped, and it has been used. So the N690 here is definitely holding on to its edge well. There may be a couple of rough spots. I have used it. It does. I've recently had a lot of packages, and this thing has done its fair share of cardboard carving, and it's still quite sharp. There's, like I said, there's a couple of rough spots, and I definitely attribute that to testing usage. Not anything to complain about. This hasn't been stropped prior to the review, so this is real life. Having gone through a few boxes, testing on at least an entire week's worth of newspaper, all that sort of stuff. It has done some duty, and it has taken a little bit of damage to the edge in a couple places where I have used it the most. To be expected. It's been a particularly busy week, so this has done some EDC duty as a fixed blade with some heavy cardboard, things that shipping boxes and stuff like that for things like laptops and other sort of stuff. Electronics, as well as your standard Amazon. And this has done duty. So the fact that it has gone through all that with something that feels like it could be stropped away, I think speaks volumes about the heat treat of this N690. And I'm giving the fixed blade a little bit of leeway, but we do want to go through our standard damn nice categories. So for those who do not know, damn nice. All right, so the design on this, it is obviously an EDC and tactical style fixed blade. It comes with its own sheath, and we'll get to the other wonderful part of this ulti clip here in a bit, but it comes with its own sheath, which is Kydex style, this molded plastic. It is very small, unobtrusive, and has lots of wearing capacity. I think the aesthetics of it are one of its strongest points. It has a visual flair to accompany its outstanding ergonomics and use case. So yeah, there's a lot here when it comes to it. The mechanics, it's really hard to talk about the mechanics of a fixed blade that don't tie directly into the ergos or its cutting performance, because it's a fixed blade. There's really no other mechanics to deal with here. But it's really, really good on it. The noteworthy points of it is that it is so slicey. The thin blade stock, the burlap micarta, the incredible blade height to width ratio, and that nice Civivi wee edge and the quality. The other thing being the ulti clip. You can get these relatively inexpensive for sure, but it comes on this one. The beauty of it coming with this is if you have other fixed blades, like say an OSS or something like that, right? If you have something like this that you currently don't have anything for, but you only have the normal drop stuff, the ulti clips actually do work, right? They will work on these kind of things. So you get something that you can swap out. If you want to try a different carry, you can swap it on there. While you can buy ulti clips for everything and just have them attached to your fixed blades if that's how you carry. Having one or two that you can swap in around is nice. And the fact that you get one, you essentially get more than a sheath. You get a whole nother product along with it, because you can buy these separately, but you get a whole nother molded plastic. I don't want to say entirely molded because it is essentially assembled, but it's another molded plastic product that you can buy separately included with the fixed blade. So yeah, there's a lot to it when it comes to that, and I think that's a really outstanding noteworthy point. This ulti clip is a fantastic little bit. It's like a what do they call it? The tack lock or tech lock or whatever. Smart clip, ulti clip. There's a few of them. I believe this is Terzola, yeah, the Bob Terzola design. Hope you guys can see that. Right, you got the dragon symbol and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of fantastic things, and its intended purpose is sort of a all-around EDC fixed blade. It does really well, because if you actually are out and you have another larger fixed blade, you have a pocket folder or anything like that. I currently have this set up in a scout carry style, for the simple reason that it's the easiest way to carry it and still grab it. That ring really allows for a scout carry or a reverse pull, even though it's not so much of a tactical use for me. The ability to carry it with other things if I'm out hiking or anything like that, to put it on something, to strap it to something, and have a useful, sharp, dependable fixed blade is one of the things that I believe is the intended purpose to this. And that brings us to the cost-value ratio. There's a high value. For a lot of people who like fixed blades or who like flippers or anything, you start to wonder, if you don't have all these machine parts, you don't have to get them together, where's the value in there? But you have all this other material, but material isn't the cost. A lot of people have a hard time with the cost-to-value ratio when it comes to fixed blades. I understand it. If you understand that making something smaller doesn't necessarily make it cheaper, like this, and that you could make something like this with 100 feet of cable in between the two pieces, and it would essentially cost you to make it not significantly more. The greatest cost in manufacturing something like this is where all of this has to happen, because these are multiple pieces. It takes time. The rest is just a long cable that runs out, gets clipped, and then has another end put on it. How long it takes to run out that cable is probably about how long it takes to put on an end. when you run it out really long. So these things are not always size scaling. It's about time and other production considerations. And since this one is extraordinarily well done, Civivi has this barely shadow boxing thing that makes in fact, the Elementum is a great example. Non-contoured have some extra contour to them, and it makes something like this Midwatch, where it has this light shadow boxing, even more contoured and smooth in the hand. It's almost better to grip it without the ring, unless you know you need to, like if you're out camping and you're in some place where there's a good possibility you might slip and fall and you have to worry about holding onto your knife. And I can tell you right now, one of the first things I took off was this silly lanyard. This comes with it. It is ridiculously long, and yes, you can do it, and it's in a survival or whatever. I'm sure it comes in handy. Or in all honesty, if your shoelace gets cut, it's really just long shoelace material. It's empty paracord. Yeah. Anyway, it's strong, but it's just I don't have a use for it. But that's the thing. If I'm using this and I have it out, the ring is enough retention, right? If I drop it and it's there out and I need to grab a hold of something, I can actually have that in my pinky and still grab something. I can still grab a hold. If this comes back up into my hand, I'm holding on to it. If it goes out, it's out on the side. I don't have to worry about it. I can have it dangling in my pinky and then roll it right back up. It's actually extremely useful if you need to be able to do a couple of different things, that you can just drop it, have it be in your pinky. I can't do it on camera because I'm real close, but you can just essentially go from holding it to dropping it, use your hand, and then grab it again. No lanyard needed. That's one of the beauties of having the end ring here, is that you can maintain retention and still use your hand. And again, like the Ulti-Clip, there's this wonderful lanyard that you can probably use for something else. It does come with it. Like the Ulti-Clip is a whole nother product they could probably sell for $5. They sell the Ulti-Clips for like 15 or 20. You could probably get it, but if you don't need it, it's useless. I don't need it. To me, it's useless. To other people, it's probably a great addition. It's free, so free and useless is fantastic to me. I still think that's great, because to someone it probably has value, and it's free. It's a value-added thing. It's not completely useless to everyone. I see the value there. It just isn't a value I can use. So it's not everything, and I really want to make sure that. But the cost-to-value ratio is pretty good. I believe these are around 70 or $80. I don't have the exact cost right up. I should really be doing better on this when it comes to cost-value ratio. But sometimes I am less prepared, or I have other things that needed to be charged. In this case, I have other things that needed to be charged that I didn't have charged in time for this video. So I can't look it up on the fly because my camera is also my phone and research material. So yeah, that's there. Again, this is a great little EDC fixed blade. I have to admit, I'm not an EDC fixed blade person. This is something that I see as going on a hike or this is a great fixed blade for me to take on a hike, where I can have something like a survival or other situation where I can have a pocket knife too, and I can have a Leatherman. And the Leatherman knives are really great, but they don't usually, unless you go get something like the 154 CM ones or the S30Vs or any particular, some of them, they have the higher steels, but most of them it's like a 4116, and this has significantly better edge retention, so you can hold on to that for when you absolutely need it. But this little bad boy, mixed with a Leatherman and a folder, is a great hiking companion. If push comes to shove, you have a tough fixed blade that has good edge retention, you have a folder for a secondary, and you have a Leatherman for almost every other capacity. I don't go on really long hikes. So if I'm out in the wilderness, this is probably enough for me to ensure what I would need to do in case of a bad situation. And a fixed blade on a hike or anything like that is really where I would use this most, except that now that I have one, it's like you get a garage, you're like, what am I going to put in here? And then 2 years later, you're like, we need another garage. We don't have enough room. Like you all of a sudden have a ton of crap. So there's always that, you know, it happens. But I see this as something I have actually already used this to cut up an apple. Something I don't usually do with I just eat the apple, but I actually wanted to try it. And so I used it to actually cut an apple. It worked great. It did a great job of cutting up an apple into quarters. I was able to slice it, core it, and quarter it, which is fantastic. I don't usually do that with a folding knife, but the geometry of this with this thin blade, you know, the high flat grind, the thin blade stock, kitchen knife style, paring knife style, it was able to do it with ease and aplomb. And it is N690, which I don't want to say is. I better make sure that is. Yeah, that's what it says. For those of you who wonder, they put it in little tiny writing right there. That's probably not going to, let's see. If you can see it, that's it. So yeah, I'm not going to say that's kitchen knife material, but it's similar to VG10, which is very popular in kitchen knives. I don't have a problem with it as a kitchen knife. AOS 10, 9CR18, 14C28, and CPM 154. Look, a lot of the stuff that we consider budget in the pocket knife and folding knife world, when you start getting into bigger blades, in fact, going on a tangent here, 8CR13. Wow. Do we need to clean? You know what? I have. Something's not right here. Okay, oh, there we go. Anyway, 8CR13 is not my favorite steel in a small pocket knife. But you put it up into something that's slightly larger, like this OSS, where now you have the ability to go to like a 58 or 60 Rockwell hardness while still maintaining a decent toughness and taking an edge, right? You can get up to 4116 and still have a decent amount. That's a different story. Now I don't want S90V. Now I don't want M390. Now I don't want all those. Maybe S30V. Right, would be about the lowest. Like I can see an S30V or an S35VN here, where you're starting to get close to like a 154 cm type toughness or anything like that. I can see that, but that's about it. Like you start getting into 14C20N, you can get a lot bigger. AEBL starts becoming, you know, other than just straight razors, you start getting into something like this where you get AEBLs or 14C28Ns and that sort of stuff in these larger blades, and now you're talking. So when you start getting into something that's N690, that maybe, you know, VG10, oh yeah, Spyderco's got tons of them. It's still a good steel. It's got decent toughness and all that sort of stuff. But you start getting into something where you're looking at edge stability and edge retention. Fantastic steels. N690 is a great steel from my vantage point, especially in a fixed blade. So yeah, it knows qualities on the steel. And normally I have expectations, requests. Quite honestly, here's the only thing I would tell Civivi about this. I want a freaking Warncliffe of this. And I am not, like, give me this or like a sheep's foot. Give me something like the, I don't have it out. Give me something like the Senka Watauga, right? Give me something that goes here and that goes down into a Warncliffe. oh my gosh, will this thing have so much more use for me as a EDC blade? I'll lose some of the kitchen functionality that the clip point does, like for, of overall like meat, cheese, or other prep. But a worn clip that's got a full flat grind like this that rolls down has all of, with a little edge like the Watauga, has, if there's any request, I would want it, and I don't want it to replace this. I want one of those too. I think it would be a fantastic little fixed blade that in a worn cliff or sheep's foot or some sort of modified style design in the same vein would be fantastic and would be extraordinarily useful. You'd get a lot of people who would love to dual wield them too. I might be one of those people. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it. I'm not saying I would. I'm just saying it would be cool either way. But yeah, so that's going to get right through it. I want to give this one, I don't want to give it 5 stars because there's things that I feel like there's things it could improve upon just in overall quality, craftsmanship. I don't think about attention to detail. I think about contemplating other materials, getting higher. So I don't want to give it a full 5 stars. I think 4 stars is too low. So I'm going with a 4.5 stars where there's room for improvement on an otherwise outstanding little product. And it includes so much in there. Its value is high. Its craftsmanship is high. I would buy another one if it came in a worn cliff. I would have 2 of them. I would buy a second one for my personal EDC fixed blade repertoire, which includes almost no EDC fixed blades. It's one of the few things I don't usually carry, but this is one of the ones I could. A little bit I want to bring out here. I don't think I mentioned it. There's a drainage hole in this sheath. How cool is that? Anyway, really, really good job by Civivi. I think I'm going to end it right here because this is a good design. I think the aesthetics are fantastic. The mechanics of it are good. Everything that's included with it, as far as the noteworthy points being an ulti clip and a lanyard, you get extra stuff in there. Very, very good retention on the sheath, which is something there's an intended purpose as an all-around EDC camp, otherwise knife. It does a great job on this. Cost to value ratio is high. It gets the job done for a good and decent price. The expectations, it actually exceeded. I didn't have high expectations. There may be other people who would have. I didn't. It definitely exceeded it. My only request is I want one in a worn cliff or sheep's foot. That's my request is, can I get another design that's like this? I want another one too. Can I get 2? That's my request. Can you take my money for a different one? Like how do we get one that's got like a cool little, like, flip that blade around so it comes down and goes with a little bit of belly, right? Can I get something like that with a little bit of belly and the dip being here, the thumb ramp being here? Something like that, flipped around. That's my request. Can I get 2 of these? One of 2 different styles. That's about it. Like, the Midwatch is fantastic. So highly, 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 highly recommended. 4.5 stars. I only say that because, again, there's a little bit on the pinch grip up here. I would like to see a little bit, for me, a little bit of horseshoe or divoting, or a little bit more of a ramp when it comes to the pinch grip here, right? But it's there. Almost, this is really the grip that is the least comfortable. So again, that might be the only. I'm nitpicking. This thing's fantastic. It's great. Highly recommendable. Definitely do it. Again, you can't hardly go wrong with this. This thing is a package piercer, a saran wrap slicer, a cardboard carver, and an envelope eviscerator extraordinaire. So yeah, highly recommendable. All right, you guys, I'm going to wrap this up because this is a highly recommendable Civivi Midwatch EDC fixed blade. Go ahead, take this video, watch it twice, comment as much as you like. Be mindful of side effects. Remember to like and subscribe. This has been your Dose of Drew. I am said Drew, and you guys have a great rest of your night.